You're listening to The Sustainable Act with Smiley Krana, a podcast about the environment, social impact, and culture. Each episode, we discuss issues, solutions, and how you can become more sustainable in life and work. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and follow the show. Enjoy! Hi, everybody. So glad you're here and tuned in. This week, we have an awesome guest. He is a local Vancouverite like myself, except way cooler and so inspiring. I'd like to welcome Paul Snider on the podcast. So, Paul is a musician, actor, and songwriter who has taken the art of creating music by using quote unquote junk as instruments. Now, you're probably wondering, what does that even mean? So Paul has created this orchestra and wrote a musical called The Music of Junk by building original instruments made from recycled junk materials and then composing beautiful original music. This show has played at many theaters across British Columbia, and I think it plans on going international from what I read.
Yeah.
Paul, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be chatting with you.
Thank you for having me.
I have so many questions. First of all, I don't think my introduction even did justice to what you have accomplished and are continue doing. I watched some of your videos of the performances, and I'm so sad that I didn't know about this before because I would have loved to see this in live. It just looks so freaking epic.
Well, thank you.
You can probably explain in way better words what exactly is the music of junk.
Well, The Music of Junk is a theater show, and it's an orchestra that I've built of performers that are performing on instruments built from junk and recycled materials. And all this music is original, and it crosses many different genres. I've got classical music, I've got pop music in there, I've even got an Irish jig. A lot of the music that I write is inspired by the instruments that I create. I created a thing I call the balagpipes, which is a set of bagpipes using balloons and reeds that I've built out of PVC. And I think it sounds great, and it inspired me to write a Scottish type of song. And it looks great on stage too when you've got these performers playing these bagpipes using these huge weather balloons. So that's basically the music of junk. You know, it's a theater show that I've been touring, and the most number of performers I've had is 10 musicians, and some of them are classically trained, some of them are rock musicians, but just bringing this eclectic group of people together and playing these 25 or so instruments throughout the show. That's basically what the music of junk is.
That is so cool. And it, like, just from the videos and the photos, it just looks so fun. It looks like everybody's having so much fun on stage, and it just looks so like colorful and creative and unique. Because I know what normally, especially classical performances, it's very like, you know, you're dressed very nice, like to the nines. It's very focused on the instruments and the music. And then with this, it's visually so beautiful, as well as you're hearing all this music created from what
Yeah,
you'd
thank
least
you.
expect to.
Sure, thank you. You know, and actually the stage itself, when you stand back and look at the stage, in essence, that's a piece of art itself. I mean, I've got this big tube instrument that stands, you know, over 10 feet tall, and that's the backdrop. And then we've got a stage built around that, and the drum set, we call it the trash set, and it's just made of all sorts of things, pots and pans and buckets and skis and golf clubs. But it sounds great. And
Mm-hmm.
hats off to my drummer who can really make the thing sing. So when you put all of these things together, the stage itself really is a work of art, just to look at it. And then the fact that
Mm-hmm.
it makes music, I guess, is
The bonus, right? Yeah. So what sparked this idea? Like what made you think like this is what I want to try out and then create?
I mean, I've always been interested in making music out of non-musical sounds ever since I was young. 2010, I started dipping my feet into the waters. We had the Olympics here in Vancouver, and I made a rendition of "O Canada" using only animal sounds. And that was a bit of a test to see if it would work. And I got a lot of really good feedback from that. It's actually on YouTube if you ever look up "O Canada," Paul Snider. But after that, a couple of years later, I traveled to Kenya to do some volunteer work with a friend. And I remember being in this is rural Kenya, you know, a very poor area. And I was teaching a class, and the kids, it was a music class, and the kids started drumming on their desk, and it made such a beautiful sound with everybody drumming on this old, vibrant wooden desk. And so I remember laying there that night thinking, I wonder if you could build an entire orchestra of things that are non-musical in nature. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I came back, I thought about that for about a year or two. And then in 2014, I applied to the Fringe Festival, Vancouver Fringe Festival, and I was accepted. And I thought, okay, well, this is where I'm going to build my show. And so I built a 90-minute show. I was accepted in December and the show was in August. So you spend, 7 or 8 months very passionately building and writing the music. And you get so close to it that, around July, I'm thinking, Jesus, is this really any good? You're
Mm-hmm.
just so close to it. But, I went ahead with the show and it was just received so well. People were just in awe. And some of the comments I got was amazing. And so I thought, well, there's something here. There's something that people want to see that's different. And it's a sign of the times, because a lot of people were asking about the instruments and, where did I get the idea for the front of an abandoned car as a timpani, which sounded great when you mic it and add some reverb. But
Mm-hmm.
as I dug into it after the Fringe run, I thought, well, I'm going to make this into a much bigger show. And so I spent the next year building more instruments and making the show a full-length show. And then we launched at the Waterfront Theatre then the following fall, 2015, and again to great reviews. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to keep building and start touring this. And then we did a small tour in 2017, and that's where it kind of took off. And then at that point, I thought, okay, I've got to try to get this now to an international audience. And so
Right.
that's what I've been currently featured or working on.
That's so amazing. Like just hearing like how, you tried something and you're like, this is important, like we need more of this, and it's getting well, like great responses. So you're taking that further, which is so cool. How do you find these items and configure them to make them adaptable to music and in tune and
Well, it's I guess that's the art of it. I'll hear a sound somewhere in the world. I remember I was just in my garage and then I dropped a tube on the floor and it made a really nice sound. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if you can make an instrument out of this. And so I found a bunch of tubes of similar length and I started cutting them so that they were the right sound. And I put them together. And then all of a sudden I've got this thing I call the glue. It's a glockenspiel made out of tubes. And it's made out of these sewage tubes, but it sounds really good. And it's more, what would you use it for? I wouldn't use it for a lyrical song, but it's got a pulse when you play it. You play it percussively. And so it's like, okay, well, that's got a certain place in the orchestra. I've always loved the sound of a tin garbage can because it just resonates so beautifully. A tin garbage can is a perfect circle. And when you tap on it, that the sound that it makes it's a very pure sound, but in itself, it's just there's a lot of white noise. It doesn't really do anything. But if you hook that up to some cello strings and a cello bridge, and you play it with a bow, it just resonates beautifully. And that was actually the first instrument that I made. After I was accepted into Fringe, I thought, okay, I've got to start building some things. And the problem with building instruments is that you don't know how it's going to sound until you've put in all the work to create it.
mm-hmm.
So this cello took maybe 2 or 3 weeks to build, and I didn't know what it was going to sound like. I had a theory. Okay, it should sound okay based on the resonance of this tin and this perfect circle, but you just don't know. And so I spent, as I say, 2 or 3 weeks in my garage, day after day, just honing it and creating this cello. And I always remember the first time I ran the bow across the string and I heard this, in my mind, beautiful, pure sound coming out of this garbage can. And that really gave me the impetus to say, yes, this orchestra is going to work. I mean, if that would have failed, I probably would have continued on, but I wouldn't have had the same passion to think, okay, this orchestra, there's really something here, it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard that and I found that was playable, at that point, the sky's the limit. And so I went to a scrapyard and I looked for, all different things that could resonate, that could make sounds. I went there and the guy said, okay, well, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I don't really know until I see it. He's get this quizzical look. And so he gave me a vest, so that, the forklifts don't bump into me. And he said, okay, go ahead and have a look around. And I spent a couple hours there looking around and tapping on things. And the guys in the forklifts are over and I'm like, what is this guy doing? But I found some things that resonated, some copper tubing and some some other pieces of metal that I knew I could form something out of.
Mm-hmm.
In themselves, they didn't really make a great sound, but they resonated enough that that I knew I could make an instrument out of it. And then there were some tubes. I was looking specifically for a big set of tubes, and then my daughter and I went out to a farm in Maple Ridge, and a guy had just pulled up all these sewage tubes from his farm, and so we bought them from him, and I brought them home and cut them into the right lengths and made that huge 10-foot tube instrument. And just wood makes a good sound. So we built this 12-foot ladder, and we turned it into a xylophone. So that's really where I get these ideas of how to build these instruments.
That's beautiful. Like, not only are you creating like art and music, but you're also conveying this message as well through your pieces and work. I feel like I would have loved seeing this live as a kid in elementary school or something, because I feel like as kids we're innocent and we're still grasping onto this idea of materialism, and we're often more creative with our imagination as well. And as we grow up, we want that shiny new thing or that expensive thing that everybody has. And I think that also applies to like bands and musicians with, you know, with instruments and the latest technology. And with this ensemble, you're taking people back to their childhoods, and when we used to use pots and pans to create music or whatever that's lying around the house, and making magic out of it. And I think that's so beautiful. Like, you don't need the most expensive thing in the world to create art and have fun. And so I
Right.
love that message as well. And
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and that's really what I got from these kids in Kenya too. I mean, they were
mm-hmm.
making this beautiful percussive sound, and they were just using their desks. I really started it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely right. I've got two violins that I made out of paper mache.
Wow.
Like, so you don't have to go and spend $500
Yeah.
on a violin. You can actually make your own. And if anybody ever wants to go into music and study an instrument quite seriously, I would say build your own instrument, because you really understand
Right. Yeah.
principles of
You
sound.
really gotta know it.
Absolutely. And that's you also understand about how to look at recycling in a different way too,
mm-hmm.
because people came out of some of the shows, and they were saying, like, I never thought that that could make such a sound. And I remember the one mother emailed me after the show a couple of days later, and she said that her kid was so inspired, that they pulled out all the cans from their recycling and they started making
Oh,
things like that.
yeah.
It's just gold when I hear things like that. So
That's amazing, right? Like, it's inspiring both children and adults, because even as adults, we lose that sense of inspiration or that idea of going back to our roots and like what you have, or, just being creative, using our imagination. So it's like
yeah.
so cool that you're touching so many people's lives and like imaginations. And
Oh, that's nice. And the one, speaking of older people too, a lot of the songs I try to write for many different audiences so that kids would enjoy it, but there's also deeper meanings. I have this one song in particular which is really special to me. It's called "Pieces of Somebody's Life," and my wife and I went with a junk company, and they were clearing out an apartment. And so we went. They said we can come and have a look and see if there's anything we could use in our orchestra. And so we went, and I realized that this apartment was, some lady had passed away, and this was, they were clearing out all of the artifacts from her life. And she had lived there a long time, and I remember just looking through all of the junk that was there. And I say junk in quotes because this is stuff that was about to be carted away. But I realized that these were all real, parts of her life. There was a cradle there was a doll, there were picture frames, all the way up to collectible spoons, like all different things. And so I wrote this song called "Piece of Somebody's Life," and it takes the listener through this lady's life from birth, cradle to grave type of thing. And it really asks the question of everything that you buy, like, is it really junk? Is it really disposable? Or does it actually have a story and it becomes a part of your life? Imagine a doll that you grew up with. It's a doll, it's plastic, it's it's a piece of junk at some point, but at the same time, it's really a part of your life. And
mm-hmm.
so, I suppose there's a message there where when you buy something or you consume something, you bring it into your house. Don't just look at it as a consumable thing that's going to be thrown away at some point. It's actually going to become a part of your life.
Right. And quite
Something that
valuable. And mhm.
exactly. And so that's really how you should, when you're shopping and you're looking around for things, like don't look at kind of the cheapest disposable thing that you can get. Look at something that you could be proud if somebody walks through your apartment after you pass away, and
Mhm.
that's actually had become part of your life and your being. That's really the way to look at things, and maybe if people look at things like that, maybe it wouldn't be as much of a disposable society.
Right. No, and that's beautiful. And like, so it's a full circle thing where it's like, thinking about what you're purchasing, what you're bringing into your home, and then all the way through like the end of this like product life cycle of like, what do you do once you're done using it? And so like you're taking them and creating a whole new life out of it, but rather than just like, throwing it into the landfill and never seeing it again. So speaking of that, what message do you hope to convey through this project and this ensemble? Because I know you work on a few different projects, what I read about you, but through the music of junk, what do you like hoping to convey, like what kind of message in terms of sustainability or just art?
It's there's a big sustainability message there. People look at the stage just even without hearing the music, and they see a cradle, they see a half of a car, they see all these tubes, and it gives them, hopefully they walk away from the show looking at recycling a different way. And it doesn't have to be building instruments. I mean, even just using something you're about to throw away as a flower pot, or as to hold screws in the garage or something like that. Just being able to look at recycling, not just everything goes into the blue box,
Hmm.
but what can I do with the things that I'm about to throw away, and looking at it in more of an artistic way,
Hmm.
just a different way than it being disposable. And the other thing is, through the music, the world is a tough place, right now, and especially for younger people looking at their future. And I have a song, the song that we close the show with, called "Imagine a World," and it's kind of our big epic song, and it's really about not complaining about the world, but imagining the world that you want to live in, and then taking strides to make that so. It's a big feat. And a lot of people think one person can't really make a difference, but they actually can. And
Hmm.
that would be the other message I would say, is that to imagine the world that you want to live in, and figure out the things that you don't agree with, and take steps to change it, as opposed to accepting it, and
Hmm.
and feeling bad about the world that you live in.
I love that everyone has a part to play in this world, and your voice matters, your actions matter, and like that's huge. That's so beautiful. So I want to talk about the people behind this. So when you first started and you pitched this concept, how did people take you seriously? Because like this wasn't just a one-time thing, and you had this greater vision. You played multiple shows, and people today realize like how cool this is, and we need this. But what about when you first started? Like, did people look at you like you were crazy?
Oh, for sure. Even just saying the concept of, people would say, "Oh, what are you working on?" And "Oh, I just got into French Festival. I'm creating this show with instruments built from junk." And a lot of people didn't think that it would really work. And I don't blame them, because it's something new, and it is an odd concept until you actually see it work. The auditions were pretty fun. I would I put out flyer posters and online things to try to get musicians that were out of the box thinkers. I was
Right.
looking for a real concert violinist, but that was open to being able to play some violin that I would create out of junk. And so everyone that came in, they would audition with their instrument, so I could see what their, how good of a musician they were. And then I gave them a bucket, and then I said, let's have some fun. And then I would play some music, and I would just have them do something with the bucket. And some of them, would tap along, some of them would turn it upside down, some of them would do this and that. And you can really get a sense of people's playfulness, and even the people that really light up when you give them
Mm-hmm.
something out of the ordinary to do, or the people that are, scared of it, you can really get a sense of their personality and who would fit. And so
Mm-hmm.
out of that whole process, I found a group of people that, I thought would fit and work well together, and would also embrace the concept of, we're coming into some new territory here, and I'm going to need your help just as much as you'll need mine.
Mm-hmm.
A two-way street. And so, so I was able to, find musicians that work well together with this new concept. And, the audience themselves, people came to the show. A lot of them came just because they wanted to see what this was about. And, we recorded some of the people as they left. We asked them some questions, and, a lot of people are like, wow, I've never seen anything like it. I didn't know what to expect, and this is really something. So, it's it's one of those things where, field of dreams, right? You build it,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll come, but you can't really place it into a certain genre.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But I think that makes it more fun too, because you're not gonna get bored because anytime soon, because you're constantly creating something new and
yeah,
trying something and just being creative. And I love
yeah,
that, like, about your musicians that came in, and again, like, brings out that inner child of like, let's use what
right,
we have and let's see what we can do with this and have fun with it. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It is fun. It's a fun project.
So do you have any upcoming projects or plans? I know we're in a pandemic right now, and so like there's probably no live performances soon, but are you planning on starting those up again once like we recover, or like what are you going to be up to now?
Well, what I'm working on now, I'm also an actor in Vancouver, and so I go on a lot of auditions, self-tape auditions and things. It keeps me busy on the acting side. But on the music side, you're right. With the music of Junk, there's not a lot happening now with no performances. But the other thing is that we did a big show out in Trail, BC, which is a 9-hour drive out,
Mm-hmm.
and to do a show like that, you load up a huge truck with all the instruments, and then you have a minivan with all the people, and so you come into town as a big entourage. So there are only so many theaters, especially in BC, that can house such a big performance. There
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the theaters I find are used to smaller shows, less people, things like that. So the good news is we played some of the bigger theaters, which is really fun. But I thought, maybe I should, during this pandemic, try to create a show that's much smaller but uses the same concept. And then I tried to find the things in this show that are good for the show, but at a smaller scale wouldn't work as well. So I've created this project called Orchestra of Sound. And basically I take sounds, everyday sounds of life, and I tune them, I add reverb, I manipulate them so that they actually sound, on pitch and very good. And I use some of the instruments from the music of Junk. And so now I've written a lot of music that I want to release an album this year for the Orchestra of Sound, which is basically all these everyday sounds that are put into this original instrumental music. And so that's what I'm working on right now. And so far it's working out pretty nicely.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. And I think that's like something we can all relate with too, with like this pandemic and being in a lockdown where we're really focusing on our surroundings and, our place in life and like what's around us, and like actually having a breather to like realize like listen to the sounds around us. So it's so cool that you're capturing that and creating art based off that as well, because, we have this opportunity to do that. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Music is all around us. You
Mm-hmm.
just really have to listen.
Yeah, I love that. How can people find and support your work?
Okay, they can if they go to themusicofjunk.com. That has all the information about the music of Junk. And then my new project, it's under orchestraofsound.com. And so if you go onto that website, there's a contact me page. And if you send me your information, then I'll put you on an email list, and I'll keep you posted. With this one, I want to keep people posted throughout the process rather than just at
Mm-hmm.
the end when it's released.
Mm-hmm.
I plan to release it probably November, and I'll release a few songs a couple months before, one song per month. So if you contact me and get on my mailing list, I'll definitely keep you posted. You'll be along for the ride, because right now it's very experimental. But what I've seen so far, this is going to be a really nice album. I came out last Christmas with a song with the Little Drummer Boy, and that's on Orchestra of Sound. I put that on Facebook and YouTube, and I got a lot of good feedback on that. And again, that was a bit of a catalyst to say, yes, okay, this album should work, because the Little Drummer Boy came out really nicely. So, there's a link to that on the site as well. So you can go ahead and listen to that and just get a feel for what you think the album is going to be like.
Yes, so everyone listening, definitely go check out the videos and the photos of the Music of Junk website, and I guarantee you're going to be amazed. It's so fascinating. And yeah, like if you have any questions for Paul about his ensemble or anything, definitely you can reach out to him. Yeah, I grew up playing in both classical and rock band for like 6 or 7 years. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but I can then continued on into like photography and filmmaking, now podcasting. And so I'm like low-key a nerd about all of this, and, just like exploring different mediums of art and expression. And I think it's just so strong and powerful, like the messages you can convey and how you can transport people and, share a message, create a statement, such as like what you're doing yourself. So I just think this is so cool. That's why I was so excited to talk with you about all of this. Yes, thank you, Paul, for coming on the show and sharing your work. I can't wait till, live performances are a thing again, because I will be the first one there.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I love the work that you're doing. And, there's all people kind of in that genre of sustainability. It's fantastic work. It's necessary work, and I love to be a part of it with the Music of Junk. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, I love that about this whole like community, is like just bringing together people in our community and getting to know, like you're local to Vancouver as well. Like, are you in a specific region in Vancouver? Or are you
Just out, no, just Vancouver.
Vancouver? So it's so cool, like meeting people in your own community and like seeing the work that everybody's doing, and like coming together and just sharing each other's work and supporting. I love that as well about. So I'm glad that I got to talk to you and connect with you through the Sustainable Act. Yeah, and thank you to everyone that's listened. Please remember to subscribe and visit thesustainableact.com for all the scoop and updates on the podcast, blog, social media, etc. And it would be greatly appreciated if you also left a review and let me know your thoughts, and check out the Music of Junk and more about Paul. I'll leave all the links below as well, and I'll chat with you all again on the next episode. Thank you.